Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Minh and I'm your co-host with Debbie from Undersupply Australia, and you listen to the SDA Housing Podcast. The show explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing Indus world. Today, Debbie, our topic is shrinking undersupply. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Shrinking undersupply.
Yeah.
As compared to shrinking supply, which is totally different. What does this shrinking undersupply mean, Debbie?
Well, obviously, we've always been aware that there is a demand for SDA, especially in the new build properties space. And as you probably all know, I constantly keep an eye, a very, very close eye on the data. And we look at the supply, the demand, the pipeline, the new build, the existing and legacy supply. Every 3 months, the new data comes out and we analyze it. We create reports with it and ebooks with it. And it has become very evident in the last couple of releases of data, particularly in the most recent one, which was as of December 24, that overall, essentially, we no longer have an undersupply, which is not fantastic news for the SDA industry in one way, but that's just looking at the actual total numbers. And I think this needs to be analysed a bit more because obviously we know there is still undersupply in a lot of places and there's oversupply in others. And that's, I guess, what we're just talking about now.
Cool. So, Debbie, what has the data research team come back to you with in terms of their internal reports to give you feedback on analytics, please?
Well, I'm looking at our over-under report, which is a really kind of poignant snapshot of where we're at. What we do is we analyze the current supply of all SDA enrolled properties versus the current demand from participants, i.e. the number of places available and the number of participants with funding. Then we add in the pipeline, the number of places in the pipeline, and we compare that to the projected number of participants with SDA funding by 2027. And then we do a third analysis and we remove all of the existing and legacy stock and we just look at the new build SDA properties plus the pipeline and compare it to the projected demand. So that gives us three very different figures. That the last one I mentioned, that isn't necessarily going to be exactly accurate because we know a lot of the existing supply is not going to be phased out, certainly not in the near future. There are properties that are older than 2016 that fall into the existing category that are for purpose and do come close to meeting good build design. And there's probably a lot of participants living in those homes that don't want to move and don't need to move. But we know a lot of the old stock is not good. So it's the extreme potential case that we're looking at, but even looking at that, it's not showing a good picture. I'm looking at it as an overall, and just to give you a couple of numbers. 3 months ago, we had and I'm just going to talk about the second two categories, the current supply and pipeline, less the projected demand. So where we're likely to be by mid-2027, in about 2 years' time. We have around 10,083 places oversupply. Just let me say that again. Oversupply across the entire country. Now, when we take out all of the old stock, the existing and legacy, we actually have an undersupply of nearly 3,000 places. Okay, good. So we've got a big undersupply. However, that was 3 months ago. That has now shrunk, if we're talking about just the total new build pipeline less the projected demand by 2027, we now only have an undersupply of about 1,800 places. That's across the entire country. So those figures are a little bit scary, Min. There's not a lot of difference between the supply and demand. It sounds like there is a relative equilibrium, but when you break it down by state, by SA4, by SA3, oh my God, it's a completely different story.
Now, I want to go off track here, Debbie. Completely different story. Hold that thought. Our team is doing some other reports for another client from Byron Bay, looking for top 20 in Melbourne, Victoria, top 30 around Australia, SA4, SA3, SA2, really a thorough breakdown on statistics and so forth. Has that little exercise there on the side that they're working on really helped out with these numbers here you're talking about as well?
Well, it hasn't helped out with these numbers because these numbers are straight off the data.
Sure.
What it has done is highlight the difficulty in narrowing down specific locations. And we always knew it was a problem because we just don't have data at that micro level.
Yes.
But it's highlighted the complexity of trying to get accurate information on a suburb, on what's actually being built there, what is in construction there, what is potentially going to be phased out there. That's the sort of information that we really don't still know. We've got ways of accessing some of it, but it's not perfect by any means.
Yeah. Collaboration. Now, we mentioned on our previous podcast 2 or 3 episodes ago, I think 2, the words collaboration. And again, thank you to someone reaching out to us, Jason McDaniel from Melbourne. He's a land developer and real estate service who does a fair bit of knockdown rebuilds in SDA in Melbourne itself. But he reached out to us to talk to us about collaboration, hear his story, and I'd love to call out to anyone else out there as well, like him, who is listening to our podcast and has data, has research, has on-the-ground intel about participant demand and construction and development of SDA, to talk to us. Let us know about what they're hearing on the ground as well, please. So please, like Jason, shout out to Jason McDaniel, please reach out to us to let us know your thoughts and data as well, please, if you're in the SDA game, please.
Please do. We'd love to hear from you. So, yeah, it's not all bad news. It looks, especially for people who are planning a lot of development in the space, it does look a little bit concerning. But here's the good news. We do have some fairly decent understanding of where there is still undersupply. Obviously, we've been talking about areas that are oversupplied now for a long time. But if we're looking at a statewide basis, where's the biggest undersupply? Obviously, New South Wales. Where is the next undersupply? I'm going to say, looking at the data, it's Tasmania, but that's not the real picture, because what these stats don't give us is information that we know, on the ground information. As an example, you would have heard us talk about the group homes in Victoria that we know are going to be, the leases expiring at the end of 2025 with 800. That's potentially up to about 4,000 places that will be being removed from the system.
Could be.
Certainly some of them will be. So that means that what is currently looking like an oversupply of 75 places in total in Victoria across the entire state, that will then reverse back to the thousands of undersupply. So, yeah, this is just highlighting that it's a really difficult thing to get clear, concise data. This data that the NDIS puts out is really a starting point to start analysing it at a more micro level. But you need, as you said, collaboration with a whole lot of different people who are working in their specific locations to be able to give their point of view.
Indeed. We need more support to each other, transparency of information, and just working together, because we're seeing more and more, Debbie, more and more of our peers, I won't say competitors, peers in SDA, closing shop or walking away from SDA because it's getting too hard to build, deliver, raise capital, or whatever it may be. We're seeing some big names in SDA turn their back and close shop on SDA. And it's unfortunate, for good or for bad, or whatever the reason being, that knowledge, experience, wisdom, or whatnot is slipping out of the industry. And we need more and more people who do specialize in SDA to collaborate and talk to each other and work together on the fund manager level, on the development level, to talk to people like us and other experts in SDA to talk about what they're seeing on the ground. You know what, Debbie? SDA assessors, they're the one assessing product.
That is true.
Pre-certification and completion certification and enrollments, they are the ones who have a good number. So shout out to Bruce Bromley, shout out to Jeremy Soden, all you boys out there who are in the SDA assessor world. We'd love to hear your thoughts on your numbers you're working on, and we'll keep it confidential.
Yeah, what are you seeing? This is just for us to better analyze the big picture, because it's very hard to do that.
I wonder if guys like that will open their books when they do us to say they've certified 1,000 homes or 1,000 apartments, and these are the ratio or locations or whatnot. It'll be nice to know that information. Lenders have a good finger on the pulse on what's that they've lent out for money-wise, which is good to see, but also certifiers also have their numbers as well.
But what's the number one source of who would know everything? The councils.
But Debbie, a lot of councils don't really detect the SDA certification going through. It's just an approval of a house. I've been through this process with a lady called Kate Tilley a long time ago, 3 years ago, on a Caboolture house, and sometimes it's very rare for councils to actually detect that it actually is an SDA house because it's just a building approval, and that's just a house. Apartments as well, just an apartment, right? We looked at Cordell ourselves, Debbie, and it's hard to us to find the word disability or SDA in the...
Yeah, look, generally, if it's gone for a DA and it has got some disability-friendly dwellings in the bigger project, it will usually have the words disability there. It doesn't mean it's SDA. It might just be disability-friendly or accessible.
True, but then you also have those 400 packs, high-rises with only 10 or 15 of SDAs in there. Like, you wouldn't detect their word SDA in that approval process there.
Possibly not. So it's really hard. But look, it just highlights the need to really do far more due diligence and analyze the data at a much deeper level as well you can to find out really what's going on. We often talk to people who maybe they want to work with us to sell product off the plan or for whatever reason. And they say, oh, we've been told that there's a big undersupply in this particular area. And straight off, we had this situation last week with some people that called us. Straight off the cuff, I thought, that's one of the most oversupplied parts of Australia. Where are they getting there?
Talking about the Ballarat topic, are you?
No. Gladstone.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting enough. Let's talk. I want to spend 1 minute on this. A couple of guys contacted us and said, oh, we're working with a large institution in the US. We're going to, we know that there are, 60 or 100 HBSs in Gladstone, North Queensland.
A need for.
Yeah, a need for. And we thought, well, this is weird, this information. And so after the phone call, Debbie, you crunch the numbers, and what did you find in that?
Huge oversupply.
Yeah. So again, look, not to demean or talk someone down, but we as individuals, Debbie, you, me, the person next door, the one down the road, the developer, the builder, we don't know everything.
We don't. And look,
it's hard to discern what's right and wrong.
There is, and maybe there is something we don't know. We know of a case in another regional part of Australia that I'm not going to mention that we do know firsthand of a quite a significant demand there. But those participants don't currently have funding in their plans just because of various circumstances regarding the providers there. They are developing the housing, and once that goes, gets closer to being ready, then those participants are going to get the funding approval in their plan. But at the moment, they're not showing in the stats at all as part of the demand. Maybe that same kind of situation is happening in this part of Queensland that we're not aware of. But somehow,
but Debbie, I want to put it publicly out here. I'm the kind of guy that would say to someone, and eyeball them, saying, "Are you sure you got 60 or 70 HBS people lined up? Are you sure? Really? Show me the proof. Have you seen the proof? Have you seen them? Have you been on site to look at these people who have funding? Show me the funding." Like, I don't want to call bullshit and question your, what you know, but who told you this? Did you see it in writing? Did you meet the people? Because if you didn't, and our numbers are from the NDIS, either the NDIS is lying to us, or you're lying to us, or someone's lying to you. So, always question the information, the data, the proof, because you know what? The old saying is, if it's too good to be true, and someone says to you, oh, there's so many HBSs lined up, they all come to your houses, It was too good to be true.
Alarm bells.
Yeah, alarm bells, because it's just the old sales trick. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We'll build it and they'll come. Like, we've heard this story all before, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the oldest trick in the book, the old sales trick where you get sold a dream, a vision, and then at completion, they all disappear and then no longer be heard ever again. So we just want to raise the topic of data and research. Just be careful what you listen to, you see, you hear, because the numbers don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. We know how hard it is to get HBSs. We know that the ratio of the 10 numbers, 2 or 3 are HBSs, 1 or 2 are HBS, high funding, 2 or 3 FAs, and there's a bulk of IELs and robust as well there. So it's never, ever 100% all HBSs out there. And if anything at all, Debbie, the HBSs have been sucked up in the last 5 years anyway. There's not many flying around out there. Otherwise, they'll all be filled right now. And this was my advice to them, these people I talked to. I said to them, look, if it's in a bad location, expect 0 tenants or 1 tenant. If it's a okay or good location, expect 1 or 2. If it's a remote location with no supply or a really blue chip area with
and
lack
a
of stock,
really blue chip product.
yep, then expect 2 or 3.
How many properties are we personally aware of that are fully tenanted, like 3 tenant homes?
Only, I can count them on my hand.
Yeah, exactly.
1 in North Brisbane, 3 robust in 1 house by Adapt Housing. And then 1 more in Taree, 3 HBSs. And that's it. I've never ever heard of, other than those 2, a scenario of 3 participants in 1 house. SDA funded, by the way.
Fully SDA funded.
Yeah. Most of our partner groups who are SDA providers, they say do normally one participant in the house. And by the way, Debbie, I want to say something for the record here. The SDA provider will share the participants across houses. They will never put 2 or 3 in your house. Think about, if I was an SDA provider and I had 5 participants on my books when moved today,
10 empty houses, I'm going to put 1 in each house.
I would not put 3 of them into 1 house. They'll go 1 here, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there, and 1 there. It's always 1, because the SDA providers want to diversify the risk by not having 1 house with 3 and all the rest are empty. It's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and from there.
And to hope to start getting second tenants in down the track.
So don't expect 2 or 3, expect 1.
Yeah.
Because your SDA provider has no, has no incentive to put 2 into your house or 3. They want to go.
If there's supply elsewhere.
They will put it across many houses, not 1 per house. And that was discussed by Jonathan from Access Living a long time ago. That was explained to us from another SDA provider in Melbourne, another, not Paramount as well, 1 to the average, and another one in Perth as well is 1, always 1 per house. So, I question the status quo here. If there are any SDA providers out there who do it otherwise, tell us. I'm not saying prove to us, but just tell us. What's your incentive to put in 2 or 3 in one go into 1 house and then leave all the rest empty? You don't. Because you're getting bombarded by all the empty house owners saying, where's my tenant? Where's my tenant? Where's my tenant? And the only way to alleviate that kind of stress, bombardment of people demanding results, is to put 1.
At least to get 1 tenant in place.
Across.
And I mean, this is all also dependent upon the care provision in the house and who's looking after that anchor tenant and getting a second tenant to move in with them eventually that's looked after by the same care operator. So it's all just part of the deeper, more complex structure. But I mean, this is still a very young industry, and most of the stock in Australia really has only come online in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're seeing now. Yeah, in 5 years' time, things will probably be very different. But at the moment, we're concerned with the here and the now. We're concerned with houses that are being built now that are going to be ready for tenancy now or within the next few months this year. And that's what you're going to have to expect. 1 tenant.
Which is 1 to 3 funding as well, by the way. 1 to 3 funding.
So, yeah, look, it's not all gloom and doom. We just need to be really smart.
And patient.
About finding out the true lie of the land, if you like.
Yes. And, one last comment to everyone listening. There are things out of our control, your control, the process control. We're talking about title registration of land titles. We're talking about construction delivery timeframe. There are some builds that takes 2 years. We're seeing for the last few years, 2-3 years. It's hard to get a house built in 6 months. 6 to 9 months, yeah, in that range, yeah. Titles, land settlement, construction, BA, construction delivery, that's a good 6 to 9 months is a good time frame, Debbie. Don't you agree? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. If you're doing it in that time frame, you're doing it well.
So back to your topic here being shrinking undersupply. Any final words or comments about this before we wrap up, please?
Look, just be aware that there has been so much more stock come online in terms of enrolled new build properties as well as stock entering the pipeline. We've seen that pipeline just grow massively in the last 12 months. And it's really important to understand that it is there. Don't just go in and say, oh, looking on Housing Hub and there's no properties with vacancies, therefore this must be a good location. You don't know what is under construction in the area, what's being planned in the area. There's so much more that you need to understand.
Yep. And speaking of Housing Hub, as much as we love Housing Hub as a platform, which was first of its kind, we love its presence. There are flaws with it because you can only advertise, promote SDA product that if you are an SDA provider, which cuts out half the market who are developers and builders and investors who have product being built, a product that's empty and not attached to a provider.
Particularly if it's being built and it's not attached to a provider yet.
So shout out to Housing Hub, please, if you can allow people like whoever to put the SDA product online to promote the vacancy, that will be good to fix up this flaw because that will also help with more clarity on what's out there at the moment. Yeah. So we love Housing Hub, but it's not perfect.
And I know that they are improving the platform. That was just their latest newsletter on improvements there, especially to people listing their properties to make their listings far more user-friendly, I guess, and concise with the information provided.
Awesome. Okay. Debbie, thank you so much for your time. Bye.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.